Learning to cook flavoursome sauces is one of the best things you can do to improve your cooking. In today's video, you'll learn 5 different sauce recipes that I promise you'll want to add to your own recipe collection. Chefs can make cooking sauces look really complicated, but in this video, you'll learn how easy and rewarding it can be. If you're new here, my name is George and I've been cooking since I was 12, and I love sharing what I've learned along the way. So stick around and let's get cooking. First up, we're going to make the classic bechamel sauce, but plant-based, and this is actually one of the 5 mother sauces, a collection of French sauces used to create hundreds of other recipes. This is an essential recipe to learn for making lasagna, moussaka, cauliflower cheese, pasta bakes, and so much more. The first step of making a really delicious bechamel is to infuse it. So start by adding your milk to a saucepan. Typically, full-fat dairy milk is used in bechamel, so you want to use a plant-based milk with a high fat content and a high protein content. So I like to use soy milk. I find it's the best option, and you get a really lovely creamy bechamel sauce. Personally, I find nut milks like almond or hazelnut to be a little bit too strong in flavor for bechamel, and I also find oat milk to be a little bit too sweet. Just make sure you get unsweetened soy milk. To the milk, we're adding some onion that's been studded with aromatic clove. I'm actually going to add 2 pieces. Then we're going to add 1 bay leaf and 1 crushed garlic clove. And then we're just going to pop it over a medium heat and then just heat it up until it starts to steam, and then we'll take it off the heat and just leave it to infuse for around 10-15 minutes. Make sure it doesn't come to a boil. We don't want to burn the milk. I always like to pop a lid on just to speed up the process. You don't have to infuse the milk, but I think it makes such a difference to the overall flavor of the sauce. So that is steaming away nicely, and we'll just set that aside for the time being. Once it's been about 15 minutes or even longer if you have time, you can just strain off your milk. That's gonna have a lovely flavor to it now. You can keep the onion and garlic and maybe use it in a soup. And then we'll just return the milk to the pan. Smells amazing already. So I've just got the infused milk over a gentle heat, keeping it nice and warm. And now we can get started on the roux, which starts with butter. And we'll just gently melt the butter over a medium-low heat. Having the milk warm will make it easier to incorporate into the roux and keep it nice and smooth. You can also make a bechamel with olive oil. Not particularly traditional, but it does work. And then once your butter is melted, you can add in your flour, and this is an equal quantity of flour, equal to the butter that is. And then just stir the flour in and get it nice and incorporated. And that is your roux ready to go. With bechamel, we're going to use a light roux, so we're not going to color it too much, and that gives it the maximum sort of thickening ability. Whereas with the Espágnole sauce, which we're making later, we're going to do a dark roux, which makes a lovely nutty and rich gravy. We can now start to slowly add in our infused milk. You want to do this just a ladle at a time to ensure you have a really nice smooth sauce. So once you've incorporated 1 ladle, you can add in another. I'm doing this with a wooden spoon, but you can also use a whisk. It is a little bit easier. And with a whisk, you can add it a little bit quicker. And still, we've got this over a medium-low heat. As long as it's nice and smooth at the beginning, you can be assured it's going to be smooth once you've finished adding all the milk. And just to let you all know, I do have a stainless steel pan coming in the post, so fear not. So now I'm going to add in all the rest of the milk. Once you've incorporated all the milk, we'll let this cook for about 5 to 8 minutes over a medium-low heat, because currently it's going to taste quite floury, so we need to cook it out. And it's going to further thicken. You can add more milk if you don't want it quite as thick. It's up to you. I will also season with a little salt. I quite like to use white pepper, but I've only got black pepper at the moment, so I'm going to add a good grating of that. This sauce is perfect now, but for even more flavor, try adding in these extras. White miso for salty and tangy flavor. Concentrated vegetable stock adds a really nice savory body to the sauce. English or Dijon mustard for a little heat and depth of flavor. It also enhances cheesy flavors, which takes us on to nutritional yeast. I also like to add a nice grating of nutmeg, especially if making this into a cheese sauce. So there you have a beautiful creamy bechamel ready for any recipe that you want to use it in. Mine might have a few lumps in it now, as we had to deal with a little bit of Poppy drama, but that's all good.
Poppy, the toys are meant to go in the toy basket, not you.
And you'll want to cover it with a little parchment paper or something similar just to stop a skin from forming. And that is going to be a delicious bechamel sauce. As well as the 5 sauce recipes in this video, I've also got a bonus curry sauce recipe in my free Sauce Masterclass PDF. This PDF will have all 6 recipes. Just become a free member on my Patreon page. You can scan this QR code or there'll be a link in the comment section. Next up, we've got a really easy sauce roughly based off the Spanish Romesco sauce, which is made up of a blend of sweet, tangy, and smoky flavors. And this comes from roasted peppers, tomatoes, and other delicious aromatics. You can make this sauce thicker and use it as a dip for bread and crackers, or you can make it thinner and use it as a vibrant pasta sauce or over roasted vegetables. Into a blender, we're going to add our roasted peppers. You can do this in a food processor for a slightly more rustic style sauce. It's currently winter here in the UK, so instead of using out of season tomatoes and peppers, which aren't going to taste great, we're going to use some jarred products. I've got some jarred roasted peppers and some sun-dried tomatoes. These can be slightly expensive, so we're going to prop them up with some cheaper chopped tomatoes. Then we're going to add in our sun-dried tomatoes, then chopped tomatoes so we have a little bit more sauce but don't add too much more cost. Typically this sauce is just roasted almonds, but I'm going to do almonds and some roasted hazelnuts. Just gives it such an amazing nutty flavor. Then I've got a couple sort of medium garlic cloves. Next I've got 1 slice of toast. This is going to help thicken the sauce and just gives it a nice sort of body and texture. I'm going to use both smoked paprika and sweet paprika. We're going for Spanish flavors in this sauce, so we're going to use a sherry vinegar, which has a lovely sort of sweet, floral, and tangy flavor, really delicious, and it's a bit lighter than red wine vinegar. If you don't have sherry vinegar, you can use red wine, but I'll do half lemon juice to half red wine vinegar, just to make it slightly sweeter and smoother like sherry vinegar. A good glug of sherry vinegar. This bottle makes it kind of difficult to get it out, but we're going to persist. Some olive oil, this is optional, you don't have to add it, but just makes the sauce really nice and indulgent. Of course, a pinch of salt and some black pepper. And then either some water or veggie stock so that it blends into a nice smooth sauce. And that is good to go. This is such a great sauce to have in the fridge or in the freezer, ready for an easy weeknight meal with pasta or roasted veg. Really delicious. It's sweet, tangy, almost sort of fruity, and then it's got a lovely smoky after flavor. Definitely prep yourself some of this. Next, we're going to make a really simple tomato sauce using minimal ingredients so that the flavor of the tomatoes really shines through. For this tomato sauce, we're actually going to start by grating the onion. This starts the process of extracting the moisture from the onion, and I find the onion cooks down quicker and becomes really lovely and sweet. And if this doesn't make your eyes tear up, then you have eyes of steel. You can also just finely dice the onion, that will be absolutely fine as well. Just be careful when you get to the end that you don't grate your fingers. And while you've got the grater out, you may as well do the garlic on it as well. I've got this pan over a medium heat and I'm adding a couple tablespoons of olive oil. If you want to go oil-free, just don't add anything. There's a lot of moisture in the onion and that will stop it from burning. I like to add the bay leaf in early so it really infuses into the oil. And then once the oil is hot, you can add in your onion and garlic. We're going to gently cook down the onion and the garlic for about 8 to 10 minutes until it turns nice and translucent and becomes really lovely and sweet. I will add a nice pinch of salt as well to help extract the moisture and of course season it. So we're not looking to brown these onions, we're going for a really nice clean tomato sauce. You just want them sort of translucent once they're done. I'm also going to add some nice woody and fragrant fresh thyme. Most of the moisture has now been extracted from the onion and garlic, so now we're going to add in our chopped tomatoes. I'm going for a more sort of sweet and fresh tomato sauce here, rather than like a rich ragu, so we don't want to get colour on the onion or the garlic. For this tomato sauce, we're going to be using chopped tomatoes, which is really nice and convenient, as tomatoes are currently not in season. Going in with 2 cans of chopped tomatoes, and I will wash out those cans with a little bit of water. Try not to do too much water though, you don't want to dilute the sauce too much. And then just get them nice and combined with the onion, the garlic, and the thyme. I'm going to give these tomatoes a little head start because although they are already chopped, I want them more pureed, so I'm just going to give them a quick mash with a potato masher. Sometimes the tomatoes aren't the ripest, and there can be some quite sort of hard chunks that need breaking down. So I'm just going to turn up the heat and we're going to bring this to a really light simmer. And then once that's come to a simmer, we're going to turn it down to a nice low heat and we'll pop a lid on and cook it nice and slowly for about 25 minutes. I'm not looking to really reduce this sauce, more just sort of concentrate the flavor and bring out the natural sweetness of the tomatoes. Keeping that lid on and retaining the moisture, we're going to have a lovely sweet and fresh sauce rather than a sort of reduced and rich one. Okay, this tomato sauce is looking really lovely. Keeping the lid on has meant it hasn't reduced too much, so we've still got lots of sauce and it's really nice and vibrant and fresh. Everything has sort of melted together, the onion, the garlic, the tomatoes are broken down nicely. Now in canned tomatoes, they don't always use the ripest tomatoes, so they can be quite acidic and a little bit bitter. Also from the canning process, that can add a sort of slight metallic flavor to the chopped tomatoes. So I always like to add a little pinch of sugar, and that just helps round out the flavor of the sauce. Cooking it slowly like this means it barely needs any sugar. I'm literally adding probably 1/4 teaspoon. Now this is definitely optional, but I've got this lovely balsamic sun-dried tomato paste, which is going to add a lovely bit of flavor to this sauce. Just going to add 1 teaspoon of that. And I will also add a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar for really nice sweetness and tang. The sun-dried tomato paste, sugar and balsamic vinegar are all very much optional. The sauce is delicious without them. The tomatoes are so soft, they almost melt in your mouth and have an almost buttery texture. Really delicious. Give this a go for your next tomato sauce, lasagna, anything like that. It is a winning recipe. Simple but really tasty. Well, that was a mess. Get some of this in your fridge or freezer, ready for your next pasta night. Good girl, Poppy. Get some rest now. Mitzi, I did not put out that jumper for you to sleep on. That's for me to wear. I don't think she's bothered. Oh well. On to another one of the French mother sauces, Espágnole. Traditionally made with a dark roux, which is butter and flour cooked until darkened, beef stock, aromatics and tomatoes. Of course, we won't be using beef stock, but I do have a vegan alternative. This sauce is like a rich gravy and has an incredible depth of flavor. You definitely don't want to rush cooking this one. Great flavor comes from patience and using the correct cooking techniques. To a hot pan with or without oil, we're going to add mushrooms, onion, carrot and celery. And we're going to cook this down until it's softened and really well caramelized, which will add lots of deep and rich flavor to this sauce. I will also add a pinch of salt to help extract the moisture from the veggies, helping them to get nice and caramelized. If you're doing this without oil, just do it in a dry pan because you want to get color on the veggies. That's color equals flavor. So the veggies are really nice and caramelized, so we can go in with the garlic now. I didn't want to add the garlic with the vegetables as it would have burnt. Also going to add in some tomato puree, and we'll cook that out for about 90 seconds. You want to really caramelize that tomato puree to bring out its natural sweetness and get rid of the sort of bitterness that it may have. Sometimes it can be slightly metallic from the can as well if it's come from a can or from one of those metal tubes. And then to start our roux, we'll go in with some butter. Espágnole is essentially just a really rich and lovely gravy. And in like with the bechamel, it's an equal quantity of flour. We're making a dark roux where we cook out the butter and the flour until it's lovely and golden brown. This adds a nice sort of nutty, rich depth of flavor, but it does reduce the thickening ability. But that's fine, we're going to be reducing this sauce slowly over a long period of time. This time we'll cook it out for around 4 to 6 minutes until it's lovely and dark and has a sort of nutty, toasted aroma. Okay, this is looking perfect, lovely and nutty brown. So just like we did with the milk in the bechamel, we're going to gradually add in plant-based beef stock. This is the brand I'm going to be using. It's called Oxo, and it's fairly good. I wouldn't say it's the best one you can get, but it does the job. Adds nice sort of rich umami flavor. If you can't get a plant-based beef stock cube, then you can just mix soy sauce, dark soy sauce, with boiling water. You could also add some Marmite as well, that works nicely. So just gradually add in your stock, stirring all the time so it's lovely and smooth. As you can see, it's got a really nice, rich, dark color. And then final couple ingredients, we're going to add just a little bit of chopped tomatoes and a bouquet garni. Here I've got rosemary, bay leaf, fresh thyme, and some celery leaves, all tied up with some leek leaves. Or you can use rope. I didn't have any rope, so I just used some leek, which works pretty well. That's going to impart lots of lovely fragrant flavor into this sauce. And then all you have to do is bring this to a simmer, and we'll let it cook fairly gently for around 30 to 40 minutes until it's nice and reduced. And you've got a rich, lovely sauce here. Okay, this is looking lovely and rich and thick. And all we need to do now is either strain it or blend it. I'm going to go for the strain option. So just pour that into a sieve and then just use the back of a spoon to get out every bit of sauce from the vegetables. And there you have a lovely, rich gravy, perfect with a glazed tofu, or maybe if you want to make it like mushroom pie, that sort of thing. Another great one to have in your fridge and freezer ready to go. Last but not least is a super creamy, high iron green sauce that is packed with lemon juice to help you absorb all that iron. This is like a turbocharged pesto sauce with lots of extra flavor boosters, perfect on salad, roasted veg, or pasta. For this super green sauce, I've just cooked some kale, and I've got the stalks and everything in here because it's going to be a blended sauce. And we're going to pop this into ice cold water. And when I say ice cold, I've just got a few ice cubes in some water here. And this is going to stop the kale from continuing to cook, and it's going to retain its lovely, vibrant green color. So this is going to be another blended sauce, so I'm just going to squeeze out this kale. Don't worry about getting rid of too much of the water, as we'll probably end up adding more in anyway just to blend it. Now with green sauces, I love to add a fresh green as well as a cooked one. So I'm going to add some rocket, but you could add some spinach, that would be nice as well. It looks like a lot, but it is going to blend down. Now to give this a pesto vibe, we're going to add some nuts, starting with some cashews, which that'll make it nice and creamy. Then some walnuts, these are a bit more nutty and earthy, which is really nice. And some pumpkin seeds to make this a really iron boosting sauce. Then 1 clove of garlic, or more if you like it garlicky. The juice of a whole lemon, as we need vitamin C to absorb that iron. It's of course going to add a nice freshness and brightness to the sauce as well. Now this is optional, but I think it's a really nice addition. I've just got some green olives here. Adds a nice sort of salty and tangy, fruity flavor. Then butter beans to give it some body and a nice sort of creamy texture. Then of course, we're going to bring out the big boy tub of nutritional yeast. Slowly making my way through this. I think we'll go for a couple tablespoons. Let's go for 3. A really nutrient-dense sauce here. And then of course, we're going to season it with salt and some pepper. And then just add some water or veggie stock and we'll get it blended. You could definitely do this in a food processor if you wanted a more sort of pesto-y, rustic-y sauce. But we're going for blended today, I think. Quick tip when blending green sauces is to add some ice cubes, and that's going to stop the heat from the blender, heating up the sauce and making it less green essentially. And as always when you're cooking, make sure you're tasting it so you can adjust the seasoning to your preference. That is just so good and packed full of nutrients. Make this and never run out of iron, even on a plant-based diet. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to download the free PDF, and if you haven't seen the tofu masterclass yet, check it out here.